Welcome to Global Insiders Podcast. I am Ryan, the peripatetic one, bringing you information about opportunities relating to jobs, traveling, and any information that can elevate you to your rightful place in this thing called life. You can find more information and how to methods on globalinsidersgroup.com. That is insiders with an S. And here is today's show. Hello, Insiders. Today I have another exciting show with a man who is reaching for the stars in the tech field. His resume is very impressive as it boasts several coding languages and submissions to publications. He has been able to cross barriers and hurdles to do this. So continue what you are doing and enjoy this interview, as you will most definitely be informed. Welcome to the show, Joshua.
Oh, thank you, Ryan. Wow, it's good to be here.
Nice. Please introduce yourself to the insiders.
Oh, yeah, my name is Joshua Owoyemi from Nigeria. I'm presently a student in Japan, PhD, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So let's dive in. What exactly is your PhD about? What are you researching?
Yeah, basically it's called System Information Science, and it's quite large a field. So I'm focusing on what is called deep learning and computer vision, which is also related to robotics.
Okay, excellent. I mean, that sounds impressive in itself, you know. But we'll get into that.
Yeah.
We'll get into that a little bit more later. So why Japan? Why Japan? You know.
It's a long story. However, just make it short. When I finished my masters, I was like feeling like after my masters, I felt like what I was doing was boring. So I wanted to learn more and to experience something different. And so I fell in love with robotics, and I started learning about robotics. And I mean, at that time, I found out that Japan was the highest, I mean, where robotics has been used most in the world. That was in 2015.
Yes.
And so I felt like, yeah, it would be good to, come to Japan to study about robotics. And that was how everything started. And I started looking into opportunities in Japan and how to come to Japan.
Okay, nice. But just to go back into it, what made you fall in love, or what made you fall in love with it?
With robotics, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You know, the thing is, as I did mechanical engineering in my undergraduate, and I always had fascination with the machines and how they work. And so at that time, you know, robots were like the cool machines.
Yes.
You know? Like everybody's like awed at when they see a robot. You know, when a robot is maybe moving, it looks really cool. And so most young people want to know. You know, in my area, wanted to have an idea of how robots work. And we could see, from movies and everything, it felt like something that you really need to know, and feel like something that you can actually use. Yeah. So that piqued my interest, and I just went for it.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. All right, so just to go into your past, as in your childhood, I would like to know about your journey, because I find it very interesting that you moved from Nigeria to Japan. But what happened before that? So, for example, what were you like as a kid? A 10-year-old.
As a kid, think about it. I think I was more of the quiet kid. And the one thing I can remember, in high school was always sitting in front of the class.
Oh, really?
And
that is so that usually people want to go to the back.
Yeah. Not me. I usually want to stay as close as possible to the blackboard.
Yes.
Not that I have any eye problem, but I just like to stay in the front.
Okay.
So I saw myself as a very quiet guy. Reserved. I don't talk that much.
Yes.
But I had a friend, and it was an interesting time anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, that was it.
That was it. It was interesting. What about sports? Did you take part in sports or anything like that?
Yeah. One thing about me was that I actually did a lot of things. I like to try a lot of things. I think that's one of the things that pushed me to come to Japan.
Yes.
I like to have new experiences. So while growing up, I learned a lot of things. I was also creative. I remember I was drawing comics
Oh wow.
when I was maybe, yeah. No, I don't draw anymore anyway, but at that time I used to make some like art, and at the same time I tried playing football
Yes.
because all my peers also played football. So I used to be a goalkeeper.
Okay.
I mean, 1 or 2 games. And yeah, so I tried a lot of things, art, sport. Just in football. And then I also tried music, tried to learn some couple of instruments. So, I was just jumping around, basically.
Well, you sound like a man like you don't waste any time whatsoever. It sounds as if you're always looking for something productive to do.
Exactly.
That's amazing, you know.
Yeah,
you're well-rounded.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like it's maybe could be a disadvantage, but I feel like all the experience kind of came together to make me, the kind of person I am today.
So,
Yeah.
but to go to the comics, were you interested in Japanese manga by any chance?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not so interested in Japanese. I know. At that time, the kind of comics I was getting was like from the US, like DC Comics and Marvel. So I knew about like Superman, Batman, and the rest. Not so much exposure to the Japanese comics. So that was the kind of image I had in mind and trying to maybe create my own character and stuff. Yeah.
All right, nice. It's the same for me. I didn't know much about manga or anything like that. It's mostly DC, Marvel, and those guys.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, nice. So after high school, what happened?
Yeah, after high school, went straight to the university. Yeah, I think that's basically what people in my age at that time did, and our parents, they really focused and they tried as much as possible to make you, go to the university. They placed a lot of priority on education. So immediately after high school, I enrolled in a university in Nigeria, and I was there for 5 years, my first graduate in mechanical engineering, actually. Yeah, and then after that, I did my master's. After my bachelor's, I had always had the interest to kind of go outside the country and do postgraduate. But at that time, I didn't have the chance. One, because, it was expensive to actually go outside. Universities in the US or outside the country were more expensive than what we were used to in Nigeria. So I didn't have any chance of funding at that time. So I decided to do my master's in Nigeria immediately after my postgraduate. And fortunately for me, after my master's, I got the chance to apply for a scholarship when I was looking for the chance to do my PhD in Japan. At the same time, I had the chance to apply for a scholarship. And it was because of the scholarship I was accepted that I was able to, come to Japan. Maybe if not for that, I wouldn't be able to
get it. Okay.
Have the... Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So at that time, I applied for it and I got the scholarship. That was in 2015.
And the scholarship basically is from Nigeria, but you can use it anywhere in the world, or was it for the Japanese university itself?
It was actually from the Japanese government. It's called MEXT, MEXT scholarship. So I think it's quite popular with a lot of foreign students. In Japan, they have like quotas for every country that Japan has a relationship with. So they kind of give the quota. At that time in 2015, in my own set, we were 7 people from Nigeria who were given the scholarship. out of like more than 1,500 who applied for it. So it was a pretty, it was pretty competitive because, they pay your tuition fee at the same time they give you a stipend every month. So it was really a good offering for any student who was interested in studying
Do you
Japan.
remember any requirements to get that scholarship?
Yeah, so at that time there is basically by your CGPA. So in Nigeria we have what we call the first class, the second class, and so on. So out of a 5-point CGPA, if you have a 3.5 and above, then you're qualified to apply.
Okay.
So yeah, at that in my case, I had more than 3.5, so I was able to apply for it. People below 3.5, I'm not sure if they can apply, but basically, yeah, you have to have more than 3.5 points grade to be able to apply for it. And there was no requirement for language. A lot of people might think that, you study in Japan, you have to, know the language before you go. Actually, before you go, it's not necessary. Maybe after you're in Japan, yeah. But at that time, I didn't understand any word in Japanese. I just knew that I was going to Japan, yeah.
How about now?
So now, yeah. After I came to Japan, a part of the scholarship is that you have to do like a semester of language. So my first semester, that was between April 2015 to about September 2015, I was doing like a Japanese intensive course. So you have to do that for a semester. Then after a semester, you start your main program, your degree. So, that is for MEXT. So if you're going through this, this process, you are going to learn the language at some point. However, for research, it's not really necessary. That's my experience in Tokyo University. I do all my research in English. So for research, writing papers, or for presentation, you don't have to do Japanese. The only thing is you would actually need Japanese to relate with other people. So you know that in Japan, it's less than 1% foreigners are here. So there's a lot of people who don't understand English. So in order to actually relate with people, you would need a language. It's not needed for academics, but yeah, to have a more interesting life in Japan, it's necessary.
Understand.
Yeah.
In order to have some sort of social life or something like that, you need.
Exactly. Yeah, because you're gonna have lab members or a research team, and most of them, by my experience, they might understand some English, but it's better to just speak to them in Japanese if you can.
Is there a good time to apply for this scholarship, let's say?
Yeah, I think for the case, it might differ from country to country, but I think it should be almost the same time. I think for the case of Nigeria, I started applying, I think, in May. It's usually May every year. So if you're going to enroll, if you're going to travel to Japan next year, like say 2020, then you should apply like in May this year. Yeah. So for the people going next year, it's usually.
Great. So going into a new country, an exotic country like Japan, what were your first impressions of the place?
Well, my first one I was going because I did I read some things about Japan. I felt like I was going to be seeing, houses everywhere, a lot of people, and I was really surprised because, I'm in Sendai, not in Tokyo. So there's a lot of vegetation. It was different from the kind of image I had in mind. It was a really good place. There were a lot of naturals around. Although we know that some cities are really overpopulated, but most of Japan is is very peaceful. Uh, yeah,
A lot of nature.
all the cities. Yeah, yeah. It's the nature is good. I mean, you have the city I'm living in is called Sendai. It's called City of Trees. You have trees everywhere. So that gave me a lot of good feeling when I got here, and I also think that the people are really nice. I say that the Japanese are hyper cautious people. They are very
Yes.
cautious, and yeah, they treat you with courtesy. It doesn't matter if you're maybe it doesn't matter who you are. I mean, with my experience, I've been treated with one of the highest courtesies I've ever had. I mean,
Yeah.
experience with other people, and more if you're like they call it maybe if you're going to a store, their attendants are really really humble. They're just. I mean, it's all way over the top. I mean,
Yes, it spoils you.
yeah, it's a good feeling. Yeah,
It is
it's
a
a
good
good
feeling,
feeling,
yes,
really.
definitely,
Yeah,
yes. Okay,
yeah,
all right, nice. So,
yeah.
are you from the country or from the city back home in Nigeria? Are, are
Sorry,
you
yeah,
from the
can you come
country
again?
or from the city, from a rural area or from the city in Nigeria?
Uh, I think my city is more like a small city. It's the capital of a state, so it's not that rural. At the same time, it's not as big as most of the big cities.
Understood.
Yeah,
All right. So, what
yeah.
does a typical school day look like?
Yeah, in Japan, it varies. However, the way I've been living for maybe 3 years now, before this my last year, is basically you wake up in the morning and you maybe shower, go to the lab, and work on a problem until you solve it or until you're tired. And that could be like very late in the night. However, I mean, you also relate with people. In my case, I didn't take any classes because I did PhD, so it's 100% research. So I'm always like at the desk, reading some papers, writing some codes, or implementing some algorithm. So my days basically wake up in the morning, eat, go to go to research, come back home, sleep. And if you have time for some fun, then I mean, if you have time to relate with other people, yes. I try to as much as
Okay.
possible anyway to
Okay,
balance
all
it up.
right,
Yeah.
nice. I like that. And what has been the most challenging aspect of studying in Japan?
I think the most challenging aspect is also relating with people. I think the Japanese try to relate with you as best as they can, but the language
Barrier?
is still yeah a barrier. Yeah, like I mean, you want to talk with other students in the lab, but you want to try to make them understand what you're saying, but because of the language, there is loss of
Mm,
information somewhere, and they want to talk to you, and you don't get all the
okay.
information. So I think most of the time when I'm talking to a Japanese, I'm thinking of what he's trying to say rather than what he's saying. So
Yes.
it can be difficult. Anyway, now I understand some Japanese. I try to mix
Okay.
it up a little bit. But the most challenging part is really understanding what the people mean when they kind of talk to you, because it's very important when you're in academics. It's you need to understand the details, every single detail of what people are saying to you. So that it could be sometimes challenging. I mean, it could be challenging most times when you don't get all the
Okay.
details. So yeah,
Understood. So basically, it's the language that's a major barrier that you face while studying.
I
Okay.
think
What
so.
about the
Yeah, it is.
professors? How
I
do
think
they work with you?
yeah. My professor, he has a lot of exposure. I think that's one thing that can really help um, your research if you're working with a Japanese professor. So if your professor has a lot of exposure, they understand what is happening. outside Japan. And so they kind of push you to not just, be local, but also to be internationally, to be criticized internationally. So I know that one way that I feel that my professor helps me so much is that he wants me to, just interact with not just Japanese in this case, but more international researchers. And so it was good to be, supervised by him because he understood that. And he wants me to just, express myself, not just in the context of Japanese, but, outside Japan. So that was a good thing. Yeah.
If a friend came to you and said that they wanted to study in Japan, what would you say to that friend?
I'd say that it's a good place. Really, I can always recommend Japan for anyone. The only thing is, you have to, as much as possible, if you learn all of the other things, the language is also very important. If not for your research, for living, for other aspects of your life in Japan. And also, I think the Japanese people also appreciate when a foreigner tries to learn about their language. They are more open in that case. And there's a lot of opportunities in Japan. Now that I'm like in my final year, I'm seeing a lot of opportunities for, to work and all of that. And the Japanese language proficiency plays a very major role in that. So that is one thing, what you have to think about. If you want to study in Japan, and if you're thinking that, okay, after study, do I want to stay in Japan for a while? The Japanese language would be very important.
So the language, once again, that's the important thing.
Yeah.
Do you have any other tips for persons who would like to study in Japan?
Study in Japan. I think, I've seen a lot of, students come here and European students, or basically, it's also a good place to study and enjoy. It's not just, people think that maybe sometimes Japanese work too much. However, in academics, you can have a balance, I think. You can, Japan also being a tourist, a very good place for tourism. It's a good place to learn, and it's a good place to actually enjoy nature. So if you're not too serious, you would also enjoy the other part of Japan. Going to places, seeing, the good nature around, and enjoying, everything that Japan has to offer.
Basically, saying that the social scene in Japan is quite vibrant.
I think, it is, because maybe not as many people see it. Actually, how Japanese relate is totally different from maybe how the Western people relate. However, you can also enjoy, these other aspects if you want to. As a student, I'm just talking as a student now. If you want to, there are so many other things to actually experience in Japan rather apart from just learning or just studying. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, moving on to more current events. Recently, you did a webinar surrounding technology.
Yeah.
Could you speak a little more about this to the audience?
Yeah. So, this was actually out of my desire to impart knowledge to the people. I came from Nigeria, and if there is one thing that I've learned here is that knowledge is very important, and not just any kind of knowledge. In the area that I am right now, I deal with programming, artificial intelligence, and the likes, and I see the trend of things, how things are going. If you read the news, there's a lot of buzzword about artificial intelligence. It's not just a buzzword now, but it's really something that we need to take very importantly. So I try to pass the same message or the same idea to people that probably I can influence. And those are people that knew me back in Nigeria and my journey. So I try to share my experience with them and encourage people also to take on this path like learn about artificial intelligence, try to learn a skill in programming and stuff. I think in my personal experience in Japan, those are the things that has really changed me more than the degree that I would get after I leave Japan. The skills that I've gotten and the knowledge that I have about artificial intelligence and programming, those are the biggest, things that changed my life. And I want other people to also have the same experience. So the reason for the webinar was just to encourage other people who are looking into this area to actually pursue it.
So what is your plan regarding when you return home? What do you envision yourself doing with this great information that you have? What is your wish? What is your desire?
I have a passion to still continue imparting people with the knowledge. I think that how the job space is going, there's a lot of opportunity in software, in programming, and it doesn't take too much effort to actually know this. So I want to go to people and be able to teach people about this. You don't have to be a PhD student or a master student to actually learn these things. I've seen people who didn't go to school and have the skills, and they're making a good life out of it. And this is what I want to teach people. And I also want to create an environment for research. I think research is very important also. This is something I've learned in Japan. Every new technology that you have is pushed by research in some way. And so these are one of the things that are lacking in a country like Nigeria. And so I want to be able to start more like a research oriented company that would be able to do a lot of research that are targeted not just towards Africa, but that can help the people in the locality and people in the community.
And I really hope that you follow through and you are able to accomplish this, because I'm saying, this knowledge is sometimes we think it's esoteric, we think it's special, we think only a few people know this stuff. And because of that belief, people don't try they don't even think about it, much less try. So if you can really break it down from a PhD to a simple level, where the average man can look at this and say, okay, well, I can do this, I should be doing this. I think that would be a beautiful thing. So I really hope that you're able to follow through and accomplish this. All right.
Thanks.
So, I'm seeing a few things here like deep learning in computer vision and robot control. You want to just touch on that just a little bit, and 3D computer vision. Just give us a small breakdown of those terms there if you can.
Okay, let me start with deep learning, or a more easier term would be machine learning. So, machine learning. So, imagine that you want to teach a robot how to identify a banana. And then, in programming, we would need to write all the features of a banana in programming language. Like, this is how a banana looks like. A banana is usually green or yellow. So, you write all the characteristics of a banana, and you have to input it into the computer. And that is more like a rigid representation of how a banana looks like. And this is how programming is done, even up until now. But machine learning, it would be that you actually show the computer how a banana looks like. You show a computer many pictures of a banana. And so with the algorithms in machine learning, the computer develops its own representation of a banana. And so in that way, it can recognize more efficiently what a banana looks like. So that is what we call machine learning. And it turns out that this simple idea can be applied to many things. Like if you want to predict stocks prices, if you want to predict house prices, if you want to probably discover new drugs, if you want to control a robot, in this case, like you want a robot to know whether a human is trying to grit, or is asking for water, or is asking you to do something. So this simple idea is used in many areas. So that is when we apply it into robotics. And the deep learning part is just to say that the machine learning, we are going much more deeper. So the kind of algorithm that we use is now has many, many layers of abstraction. Like it's really, really long. And so we call it deep. It's just basically almost the same thing, but the abstractions that you put into the algorithm that you're using has a lot of, we call it layers, like a lot of stuff inside it. And so because of that, we call it deep. So that is like deep learning. And computer vision is basically how does a computer see? So you see a banana, and if I ask you to describe a banana, you know how to describe a banana. But how would a computer describe a banana? And so that is something that we try to, it is this computer vision that we use to represent what a banana is in computer language. And so it turns out that this is really useful in, say, facial recognition. A lot of people use this today just casually, but these are things that have been developed for many years. Like when you use a filter on your phone, like you use Instagram or Snapchat, all those filters that you see. Those are like computer vision algorithms. And like when you're using a camera and you see a box in front of someone's face, that is just facial recognition. It's one of the algorithms in computer vision. So those are things that we work with. So we can actually combine computer vision with machine learning to allow the computer to understand what it is seeing by itself. And when I say 3D computer vision, it's just like we're going into more dimensions. So 2D is just the pictures. 3D is like we have depth to it. So yeah, so it's really vast, basically.
So
yeah.
Can you build that type of thing from scratch, Joshua? Can you build,
like a type of what?
Like what they have on the Instagram and on Snapchat with the face recognition thing. Can you build that type of thing from scratch?
Yeah. yeah. Sure.
That is
sure, I can do that.
Yeah.
It's going to take some time, because a lot of people have worked. Like the simple facial recognition thing, it took someone like 10 years to come up with that simple algorithm. So to come up with this from scratch would take some time, but yeah, I can do it.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
We're basically at the end of the show, so just indulge me with some rapid fire questions, please. So the first one is, so I ask and you just answer what comes to your mind.
Okay.
So the first one is life.
Life, I think life is the ocean. You just discover it, like it's endless.
Okay.
Travel is good experience.
Right.
Future is imagination. Instagram is videos.
Joshua, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, if people would like to get in contact with you, how can they do so?
You can follow me on Twitter, and my handle is Toluwajosh. That is TOLUWAJOSH. Same with Instagram.
All right. Thank you very much, Joshua.
Thanks for listening today. I hope you are inspired. You can find more helpful and motivational material at globalinsidersgroup.com. That is, insiders with an S. You can also keep in touch at Global Insiders on Instagram. See you next time, but remember, you can be your own superhero. Bye.